Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Remaking Sands of Time in a data pack. Let's go. So today's video will probably be a little bit of a shorter episode because we're just going to be talking about, or at least my main priority for today's episode is the texture pack. Oh, sorry, excuse me, resource pack. Where are my manners? So that includes things like the keys. So without further ado, let's swim under the timer and take a look at our first key. There it is. Ta-da! So I've retextured some items, and all these items are trial chamber keys. These guys, trial keys. And I've also retextured some blocks, and there's a fun trick for all you resource pack people. You know this trick probably very well. You retexture an item and then place it down with a block entity. Sorry, not a block entity, item display entity. And so it just appears as a block. So this block is actually a barrier. And it just has a item display entity in place of where it is. So that gives the illusion of some kind of retextured block. So I just have this kind of pedestal. It's, as you can tell, a quartz pillar with a little fun ring, a green band around it. I think it looks pretty nice. It's pretty simple. That's what I'm going for, simplicity, because like I said, I don't really want to have much going on in the resource pack. The main thing, again, are these keys. So let's pick it up. So, oh, I just threw it somewhere. I accidentally pressed Q, and I think it removed it because I have a game rule on or something. I don't know. Well, that's fine. We'll take a look at some of the other keys. Actually, you know what I can do is give loot, let's see, which one? Green key, this one. Yay! Oh, wait. Maybe it just desynchronized? I don't know. This game's kind of weird sometimes. I've been noticing some weird buggy issues. And one of which we'll actually talk about from things that I had to do for creating the resource pack. But anyway, so we don't need two of these guys. We just need one. So green vault key, here it is. So that's what it looks like. I wanted to make all the keys the same size. But I also think that they should be a little smaller than this. They take up the entire height of the inventory. But that's how the trial key is. If you see, the texture reaches all the way from the tippy top to the lowest of lows here. And so, I don't know. I wanted to keep in sync with the color scheme of the glazed terracotta blocks up here. So I'm just basically using a lot of these colors, but I might change that at some point in the distant future. This is good for now, okay? This is what we get. So let's take a look at the red key. This is going to be this way. It's going to be down here. I can get rid of this barrier block now. I don't need it. Aha, here is the puzzle room for it. Don't look at the puzzle. I'm still working on, actually, no, I'm done working on those. I just don't want you guys to see it. Okay, so here we go. Different pedestal, right? And the red vault key. So that's what that one looks like. Got a bit of a curve to the top. So all the keys basically have the same or similar, let me press E, similar base to them. They have the two teeth sticking out, but they all have a different kind of foo-foo handle going on here. So the green key has a circle one. This one has kind of a curve, kind of knot figure. Now let's take a look at the yellow key. It's got to be down this path somewhere. I'm just going to go into spectator mode because I don't want to have to deal with all of this mumbo jumbo. Go. Here we are. The design is also supposed to be in line with the glazed terracotta. This one's not as, maybe it is. I kind of took inspiration from these jaggedy, zigzaggy parts to kind of make this piece, this key. The red one has a lot of swirls in it, and the green just has a lot of circles, or half semicircle, quarter circles. I don't know. And then, oh, looks like the blue key is right here as well, so we'll see that. I wanna come in from the room actually, because this room is nice. So here we go. Whoa! Ta-da! There it is, the blue / lapis vault key. So this is the lapis key. Boom, there it is. So those are your 4 textures, the main, textures. It's good to have very visual, obvious. It's very good to have visual, it's very good to have a obvious visual difference between the 4 keys. Yeah, nailed it. So now let's take a look at these keys in action with the vault. So let's go to the red vault here. This one's pretty cool. So with this one, we have these two blaze guys here. They're just kind of trapped in glass. And we have this block as well. So this is actually, instead of a barrier, this is a normal vault block. And it has a texture similar, again, to the glazed terracotta, the according color of that kind of block for whatever vault we're looking at. And just some chains on top to kind of give it kind of like a lockdown kind of look to it. I don't know. I got kind of lazy with these, and it's fine. Yeah, this is what we get. Once you get close to it, it should, open up its little mouth. So it's supposed to look like a keyhole. And it should only accept a red key. Now, it doesn't have any loot that pops up the top. Instead, what I'm doing is I'm using an observer. And then I have a command block running some kind of function in here to update the vault item display state. And that basically just checks for the state of the block. And then it will place a redstone block at these relative coordinates, which is actually below the vault door. So it will actually trigger the vault door animation and these guys breaking free of their cage. So let's go ahead and see that in action. I'm going to face these guys just because we can look at another vault door open. And I think you've seen that before, but it's cool to see these guys break free of their cage. So, ta-da! Oh, failed to save chunk. That's unfortunate. Never seen that message come up before. And here's just a quick look at that function. We do a couple of things. So if the block 2 spaces above us is in an inactive state, then we run modify entity. So we update the item display state, and we update its custom model texture. So that is to make sure that we basically show some visual update on the vault block. Because remember, it is just an item display, just as those pedestals for the keys. We have to update its texture depending on the state of our vault block. And just to be thorough, let's go ahead and open up the green vault as well, so we can see the texture finally updates when we get close enough to it. That's too loud. Ooh, it's loud. Now, let me tell you about an issue that I was facing with the structures that had a trial block in them. So one thing that the trial block does is it keeps track of the server or the world tick at which it should start updating again. So after you insert a key, right, it will be dormant. So checked out the loot, and then it will be done, and then you can't unlock it for like a certain amount of time after that. And that's actually kept track of with the MBT data. So if I do data, get block, blah, 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 there's a bunch of stuff. So there's this part here, server data, and then state updating resumes at, and you can see this big value. So this big value is literally how long my world has been in existence. And this value is much greater than the world that I use to place all of these structures in. So what would happen is I would save the structure, right? Transfer it over to the other world, and then these vaults wouldn't react to their appropriate keys. They wouldn't be unlocking. They wouldn't, if I remember correctly, I don't think they even like changed state when I went near it. It was weird. So what I ended up having to do is download this program from GitHub called NBT Explorer. And what I can do in here is take a look at all of my worlds and find where the structure that I just saved is located. So here it is. Let's do the red vault here. So with that selected, I hit search, find. And what I would look for is server data and click find. And it will take a wee while to do its thinking. Okay, so eventually it will find this thing, this one entry. We open that up, we can see the value, we select it, and we hit, we hit this little pencil button. And I would just change it to 0 and update that. Then save and exit. And so after that, I would be able to move it out of the world where I generated the structure into the world where I have my data pack. And one last thing I want to mention about the resource pack is I've actually tweaked the color of the sand texture. I brought in a little more white into it, so it's less yellow. And I did that for purposes that I will explain in the next episode. But before I end this episode, I want to clarify some things with path structure generation. I made this little arrow structure here for the purposes of demonstration to use in the episode. And when it came time to record everything, I just completely forgot about it and didn't use it. So I want to use it now to help clarify why we do all the things that we do when generating paths. Let's go over it briefly here. So we start off with this repeating command block that just executes this generate path function. And in this generate path function, we eventually place a jigsaw structure, direction detection. Now, this line of code was in a separate function all of its own previously in the last episode. I've just moved it here because again, I was just using just this for testing purposes. And all that template pool does is it just picks one structure. It's going to be this guy. And as you can see, that structure is just this little command block. Now, instead of using this command block, I'm going to replace it with this arrow, and we will see what happens. So here we go. We're going to use arrow instead in this template pool. Hit save. So now what we can see is happening is we are placing that arrow structure, but they are all facing in weird directions. Except for some of them. Some of them get placed correctly, like this one, but those other two, not good. Not having a good time. Not having a good time at all today, sir. So before we can place any kind of path structure directly, we need to place this little command block, which will be pointed in a certain direction. And then we run a function that changes what kind of template pool we pick based off of this guy's rotation relative to the hub that we just generated. So I'm going to undo my change in the template pool, and instead of having the command block run some kind of place path or anything, I'm going to let it modify the data in our marker, but that's it, and just do that, and we'll see what that does. All right, now if I place the hub down, we should be able to see some command blocks being placed at the edges. All right, so we see that, and then it's going to take a look at, again, the block right next to the command block relative to it. So for example, this one's facing off to the left here, and the path block that we're using to mark where we just came from is to the left of this guy. Meanwhile, over here, the block that we're using to mark what path we should be generating is actually in front of where the command block is facing. So that's what these 4 commands are for. So only one of these will run, only one of these will execute. They check where the path block is relative to our command block, and we'll update that data in the marker appropriately. So let's go ahead and uncomment this out so that we can run this function. So destination or path, this is where we just pick based off of the scoreboard if we need to place the end or more path. One last thing that I'm going to change for the sake of this demonstration is I'm going to modify the generation to make sure that all paths coming out of the hub are going to be the Lapis Vault, and the Lapis Vault will just be directly connected to the hub. Now, instead of generating the Lapis Vault, because that's a big structure, I'm going to use the arrow structure that we were just looking at. Now, path type, again, will be Lapis Vault, so that's going to be in this template pool. You can see template pool destinations Lapis Vault, and I've changed this temporarily to just use the arrow, and this allows us to use the processors as well. So we're going to replace the magma blocks with whatever we want in this processor. And you can see that with the different rotations. So we can see if we need to rotate it 180 degrees, we go to a different template pool, which will pick a different structure. So looking at the Lapis Vault 90 rotation template pool, for example, again, it's just going to pick a different structure. It's going to be another tiny structure. It's going to be this guy right here. So this one, just like all the others, has a input jigsaw block, so this is where we connect from, and then it has another jigsaw block just rotated in a specific direction to unrotate where the command block has rotated. And all of these jigsaw blocks pull from the same template pool. This will be the destination. Again, that's the same template pool that we just pick if we don't need any rotation. Okay, so I've just run 2 of my helper functions to change the depths of all of the paths. So I've just set all the depths to 0, so everything should place the destinations directly after the hub. And then I've changed all paths to be the light blue glazed terracotta paths, which is the Lapis vault, which is where we have altered our example. So let's go ahead and place structure. Let's tomb again. I'm just going to put me in survival again. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at the hub timer so we can see all outputs are light blue glazed terracotta. Very good. And we can see if we go to one of the exits here, we are placing arrows. You can see over here, we got another one, and they're all facing the correct direction and all aligned correctly as well. And they do this in spite of each chunk causing them to be rotated in a different direction when placing jigsaw block structures. Alright, I hope that didn't make it even more confusing, because that's not what I was trying to do, but if you hadn't watched the previous episode, I bet that was pretty confusing. So go ahead and take a look at that, and I'll have the next episode out hopefully sooner than I had this one out. I just, again, have been busy with IRL stuff. I'm sorry. But we're getting really close, so I think there's just one more thing that I want to talk about in the next episode before we start playtesting everything, which that will be the day, okay? I am so ready for it. I hope you guys are too, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye!